Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a really exciting video. This video is a tag that was started by Annette's Makeup Corner here on YouTube. I will link her channel below. I saw Angelica do this video the first time and then she referred me back to Annette's video, and since then several other influencers have been doing it. I saw Mel Thompson do it, Fancy Face. I've been really enjoying watching their answers and getting more and more pumped up thinking about what my palettes were. So if I haven't said already, which I don't think I have, the topic of this tag is if I could only keep 10 eyeshadow palettes. Now, when Annette was explaining it, she said that for her, she was including sentimental palettes. So like if you had to get rid of all of your palettes right now except for 10 of them, are there any that have sentimental value that you would keep just for that reason? I'm not going to do that. Honestly, that's a little bit triggering for me, and I'm not even trying to be funny when I say that. Like, the idea of actually having to decide what products I would actually get rid of, like, it was just a little bit too real for me. And it was so funny because when I was watching Mel Thompson's version of this, she like said something like, I'm so glad this is a fake scenario because this was really stressful. And I think that's what I was feeling when I thought about getting too sentimental. I was like, no, I'm gonna do this on a strictly color basis. So that's more of how Angelica did the video, I think. But basically the idea is, if I could only keep 10 of the eyeshadow palettes that I have now, which 10 would I need to have in order to create any type of look that I would want to create on a regular basis, or any of the normal looks that I do create on a regular basis. For me, I go pretty different every day. I like to be creative. I don't really have a go-to look. Every time I sit down to do my eyeshadow, it turns out a little bit different, and I don't always have a plan sitting down for it, and then even if I do have a plan, it'll turn out a little bit different. Like today, for example, I knew I wanted a green smoky eye, but I ended up adding in the blue under that lash line a little bit. You know, I add details like that as I go, so it's not like I have specific looks in mind for these 10 palettes. I know the types of shades, colors, and textures that I enjoy wearing and enjoy playing with the most, and that's kind of what these 10 palettes comprise together. So let's jump into which palettes would I keep if I could only keep 10. Here we go. So I think I have a few classics that a lot of people are gonna pick, and then I know I have a few kind of obscure random ones in here too. So it's just so fun to see everyone's list, you know, and what people pick that's similar and different, because everyone's, I'm sure, is going to be different. Anyways, the first one that I want to talk about is probably the most basic. This is the one that I reach for the neutrals the most out of this, but it has a lot of options in general and a lot of colorful options too. That is the Lorac Mega Pro Original. Do you remember this? Mine is so dirty. It is for sale now, although when it first came out it was said to be limited edition, and it like sold out really quick and there was a bunch of people that couldn't get it, so after a couple of years they brought it back, which I think is really cool because this is such a good palette. As you can see, my most used shades are the neutrals right here, these two shades. I also have quite a good dent in this, so I'm wearing this in my eyebrows today. That's called Espresso, and then Cream and Fawn are kind of base eyeshadow shades for me. Cream is more of a brow highlight, and then Fawn is just an all-over base. Those are shades that are must-haves for me. Just kind of light, not too cool toned, not too warm toned, neutral shades, you know, but not too light either. Like I need one nice light one, but then I need one kind of mid-tone one too. And then this has a whole range, so it has this camel shade, which is another must-have of mine. It has these really pretty purple pinks right here. By the way, if you're not familiar with these palettes, these two rows are all matte and these two rows are all shimmered. I love Lorac matte formula. It is probably my #1 favorite matte formula of all time. I just love it, always have. So we have a couple of really pretty purples, really like interesting pretty pinks here, and those are types of shades that I do reach for a lot when I want colorful looks, is purples and pinks. Those are just kind of shades that I enjoy playing with and that look good on me. This palette also has a matte white and a matte black, which is nice. It has a gray, a couple of cool tone browns, like I said, the warmer tones, and then these shimmers are really pretty. I wouldn't pick this palette for the shimmers, but they're really nice to have. There's some really good like highlighting shades, like these four right here, actually these two, also a lot of these actually A lot of these shimmer shades make really good inner corner highlights. They're really nice to mix with other colors if you want to like lighten it up. Like today I used opal on my brow bone because the highlight I had originally put there was a little bit too colorful and I wanted to lighten it up, so I used opal on my brow bone. So for example like that, or if you want just a pretty inner corner color, a lot of these work really well for that. The shimmers are they're not metallics, okay? So Lorac shimmers they're true shimmers. They are very beautiful, especially for smoky looks because they blend out so easily, but they're not the most shiny, most metallic, reflective eyeshadow you could have. But I love this one. Staying on that note of neutrals, the next palette I have is one that I did not expect to be a favorite. It was a favorite, one that I probably wouldn't have expected to be in this list either, but here it is. It's one that got a lot of flack for being too neutral and too boring, but I think it's perfect and I love it. And that is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam eyeshadow palette. I ended up liking this better than the Modern Renaissance, and I can truly say that. This has, to me, all of the reds in the Modern Renaissance are a little bit overkill for me personally. All I really need is this mulberry shade to get any reds that I want, and the rest of the shadows in here are amazing. I like the shimmers in here a lot better than the Modern Renaissance. I don't even know why I'm comparing those two. This is not that video, but I just really love this palette. I love the shimmers. I love the variety of looks that you can get. I love the mattes also. So Anastasia Beverly Hills is a brand I love her shimmers and her mattes pretty equally. I think actually I would say I love her shimmers a little bit more than her mattes. Whereas Lorac, I love the mattes more than the shimmers. With Anastasia Beverly Hills, I think her shimmers are a little bit better than her mattes, but I really enjoy her matte shadows also. The shimmers are just off the chart. But this has a nice brow highlighting shade, Tempera, and then this dusty rose, sort of dusty mauve shade. It has a really nice pink here, so you can get a really nice wearable pink, and this shade Sultry, which I have quite the dent in. It's a gorgeous shimmer. They have a nice bronzy gold shade, a couple of gold shades. You could get a very gold look with this palette, actually, you really could. You can go a lot of directions with this palette, and that's why I love it so much. And then you have just a whole bunch of mattes here to get, again, any kind of look that you could want. You have a nice black. I just love this palette. I reach for this a lot. I really do. This is one of my most reached for Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, and there might be one more in this pile that we'll get to later, but I love this one. So this would definitely be one of my 10. Okay, now let's venture into a little bit more colorful mixed with neutrals, like that half color, half neutral type of format that we've been seeing a little bit more in the makeup community. This is the newest one to my collection of all of these. Well, this one and another one I got at the same time. It is the Disney Designer Collection with Colorpop, the Midnight Masquerade eyeshadow palette. This is kind of like the Soft Glam in the sense that for some reason at a glance I thought it looked kind of boring, but once I actually started dipping into the shades, I really fell in love with the depth of color range in this palette, but also the variety of finishes. This does have 2 pressed glitters in it, which I am really enjoying. I know a lot of people are sick of pressed glitters, and I agree. I don't think they need to be in every single palette from now on, but I think a few here and there in palettes where it makes sense, like a princess palette, I think it makes sense in a princess palette, you know? I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at them for putting them in the right palettes. Like, I think Huda Beauty does a pretty good job of that too. Like, anyways, I really am enjoying the pressed glitters is my point, and I'm not mad at them at all. So I would actually like to have a few. If I had to get rid of all my palettes, it'd be nice to have a few glitters, you know? Because in this challenge, you're supposed to be getting rid of like all your eyeshadow. Like, you're not keeping singles or anything, just palettes. So I need some glitter, you know? This also has 2 really pretty duochrome shades. I did try to pick a few palettes that had duochromes because that's something that's important to me that I really like to have access to when I'm doing my makeup. So this one has a couple of really pretty duochromes and then really nice mid-tone shades. Not a lot of nice lighter matte shades, so I had to make up for that in some other palettes. And for that reason, I can't really do a look on its own with just this palette because it doesn't have those lighter matte shades. I need to use just a couple of other shadows, but then once I get my base down, I generally can. complete the look with this palette. But I love these deeper shades here. Again, that really pretty red purples and red berry tones, oranges, a fun green, a fun dark blue. It's just got a really good color story, and I love this palette, so I really do think this would be one of my top 10. Next, I have a palette from Julius Place. This is such a beautiful 9-pan palette. Like I was talking about those duochromes, this shade right here, Tart, is the prettiest whitish pink duochrome. It's more pink than the actual pink shimmer in this palette. Like it is just like this vibrant rosy pink that has this beautiful reflect. Oh, it's gorgeous. All of the shades in here are super pigmented and super vibrant. I have a really nice sort of neutral matte shade there, which I should probably dip into this shade more. I find this a really fun palette for creativity, for getting outside of my comfort zone, and it just has some really nice shades, a really nice green. I love this Mont Blanc. I don't speak French, but this like almost like taupey greenish silver shade is so beautiful. I love shades like that. And then this shade Cream is just the most stunning peachy pink salmon color. So many good colors in here. Really love this one. Okay, next I have a Morphe palette, but it's not the one that you might think, because I feel like a lot of people doing this might be picking the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette, although maybe not, I don't know. If I had to do this tag like 2 years ago, I probably would have picked that palette, but now I haven't reached for that one in so long, and this one I still do reach for. And maybe you can guess if you've been following my channel for a long time, because I have definitely raved about this before, but it is the Dare to Create. This is the original 39A Dare to Create palette. I believe this is the first palette that had this layout. It came out, I want to say maybe 2 years ago. It came out a year before the James Charles collaboration palette came out, and I talked about how I didn't love that one at all, and I thought that one was going to be like this one, and it was a disappointment. This one is amazing. This is the bulk of what I'm wearing today. Obviously it is the green shades here, and these are just hands down the best matte greens that I have in my collection that I'm aware of, like in these shades. I mean, the matte greens in like other palettes are good, but like these like army green, like olive, you know what I mean, like this type of green, these are the best. I also really enjoy all of these delicious matte neutral shades. If I could only keep 10 of my eyeshadow palettes, you gotta make sure I have a lot of neutrals, because I just use them for blending. I do. So would have to have that. I really like this hot corner up here. I have like my bright red if I ever want that kind of a look. I haven't done that in a while, but you never know. It has this like pretty blue section, a really pretty matte dark blue, and just lots of variety, you know? It's not just like one or two. It's like if you want to do a green look, you have a few to work with. If you want to do a red look, you have a few to work with. I just love this palette so much. I really do. So this definitely would be one of my 10. There definitely are a few too many, like these type of shades. I don't need that many. I could probably take out this whole little 8 right here and replace it with some more interesting colors, but that's not what this video is about. Alright, I'm saving what I think is the most surprising choice to last. And before we get there, the next 4 I have are brands that I've already talked about. And that's how much I love the brand. That was very telling for me. It was very interesting. So the first one is Lorac. I have another Lorac palette in here, and this is another one that is kind of random and kind of obscure, and probably not a lot of people are going to be on board with this, and you might even be mad at me because this is technically limited edition and discontinued, but I love it, and I have to put it on here because I have to be honest, right? It's the Pirates of the Caribbean palette. Do you even remember this palette? This is pretty old. It's pretty old. And it's so thick because it didn't come with the face palette. You had to buy the face palette separately, but it goes in here. Anyways, this palette was a true love of mine when it first came out, and I still really love this palette. I think it came with an eyeliner. I don't remember what it came with, but it's not even so much the color story. The color story is interesting and it's nice. Most of the time I would say I use this with other palettes though. Maybe I'll start with some inspiration from this palette and then dip into other palettes, and that's kind of what I had in mind when I was doing this whole tag, was like, what are my favorite palettes to use together? Because that's kind of what this is, right? It's not like one palette to do it all, it's like 10 palettes to do it all, basically. It's generally a pretty cool toned palette, which is interesting because I don't lean towards that really that much, but It's so pretty. It's so pretty. There's a couple really pretty inner corner highlights and a couple nice in-depth, like this shade Menace is so interesting. It's like a blackish green. And then we have a light green sea haze. You can get a warm look if you want to. You have a peach and a red in here. And you even have a more neutral, less, not super warm matte in here. And then you have your cooler toned matte, a white. This shade is called Maddie. It's like a bone colored shade, I would say. Bunch of really interesting mattes. And this actually, I think this palette was one of the first palettes that they started using their original Pro formula in their limited edition palettes, and that was when I really started to collect all their limited edition palettes. Actually, that's not true. I collected them before that. But it made me really happy because their Pro formula is absolutely outstanding. And I'm so glad that they did this. So anyways, I think this is a super fun palette. Another one that's a little bit on the creative side, but I love it and I definitely would hang on to this one. Next is another Colorpop one. Can you guess? I actually mentioned this in my recent monthly favorites, so you probably can guess. And honestly, it's not necessarily my favorite Colorpop eyeshadow palette in existence, but if I could only keep 10, this is one of them. It's also one of the bigger ones, so that helps, but it's the So Jaded by Kathleen Lights and Colorpop, of course. Now, this is my palette. I actually rearranged the colors in here, so if it looks confusing to you, that's why. I'm sure you guys know, but these little magnetic pans pop right out. They're just like magnetized in the palettes, so you can put them in a Z palette. I have a video where I'm depotting my Colorpop palettes, but these can go in a Z palette, or you can rearrange the colors within the palette if you want to. Now, obviously it's going to be confusing because the names don't match up, but I just wanted it to be a little bit more cohesive color-wise. I just thought it was fun and I would try it. So anyways, so my colors aren't all in the right spots, but this is the palette. It's just rearranged a little bit. But this is another one that is really, really good. And I will say, being 100% honest, the mattes in here are not the best Colorpop mattes I've ever tried, especially the deep shades like Stoned and Jasper. They were a little bit difficult for me to work with. I still like my matte greens in the Morphe palette better than I do in this palette. This gold shade, see, I don't know the names of the shades now because I've messed it up. I've messed it all up, but it is like the pressed powder version of Telepathy. If you remember when Kathleen Lights came out with that Super Shock shadow, oh my god, I just got a whole chunk of glitter in my nail. Oh no. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about these because I just talked about this palette in my review, and also because I don't know the names of the shades because I messed my palette up. But I will say that the number one thing I love about this palette are the mid-toned matte shades, like this one, so like shades that would be blending and transition shades. And then I also really love all of the shimmers. The shimmers are outstanding. The darker mattes are a little bit harder for me to work with, not as good as some ones I have in other palettes, but they're nice to have. They're fine for like lower lash line work and stuff like that. And there are a couple of pressed glitters in here. I enjoy those. I enjoyed this one the most. And then there also is one pressed Super Shock shadow right here. So that is So Jaded. Really do love this palette. Next is the other newest palette to my collection, and I have an interesting idea for a challenge that I want to do after this video that I'm going to talk about at the end of this video, so stay tuned if you want to hear about that, because I just have an idea for something that I could do to kind of carry this theme on a little bit longer. But anyways, as of right now, I'm pretty sure this palette is a favorite, even though I haven't had it that long. I love it. What can I say? I love it. It's a Julius Place The Tribe palette. There she is. So stunning, so beautiful. Oh my goodness. Okay. The thing I love about this palette, and the reason why this is in here, is because there's no wasted colors in here. Like, there's no annoying mattes that I'm not going to use, which is funny because I was saying before about some other palettes, like I do need matte neutrals, but there comes a point when you have enough and you just want some color. You just want like a color story, you know? And Julius Place in general is really good at giving palettes with color stories, and this palette is just perfect because you just have the most beautiful color story. So this is matte, 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 and then these four are shimmer. So you have one more matte, then you have shimmer, which to me is a very good ratio. I'm happy with that ratio. And this actually I talked about in a recent haul as well, so I won't spend too much time on this, but I love this shade. Ashanti is like the coolest, most unique greenish brown yellowish shade. The shade Coral is stunning duochrome peachy goldish green, and if you mix it with this darker green Cuba here, you get a really pretty mid-tone shimmery green, so you can achieve a lot of different looks by mixing these colors. So stunning. I do love having this type of shade in here because I've realized, like I am today, I don't know if you can tell, but I've realized that when I wear green eyeshadow, it looks a lot better if I balance it out with a shade like this just above where the green is. It just looks a lot more balanced and less like, the green is less overpowering on my face, especially when I'm like editing my videos and I see that like color balance isn't quite there. I feel like having shades like that are kind of on the opposite end of the color wheel, it's not quite the opposite, but you know what I mean. Shades that complement each other. This is a good palette. I really like it. It'd be in my top 10. Now I will talk about the other Anastasia Beverly Hills palette that I put in here, the original Nirvana palette. This is such a beautiful palette, and I feel like this one is pretty different from a lot of the palettes. I mean, a few of them have like a pop of purple, but this is the only really purple leaning palette, purple and pink leaning palette of all of the ones that I have. I also love that there aren't any repeats in this palette with the Soft Glam, because a lot of times her palettes do have repeats. The two that I'm keeping don't. And this has like a little bit more of a brighter pink, a really gorgeous pink shade here, a really gorgeous matte purple shade Soul. Celestial is this super poppy, vibrant purple. We have a deeper purple. It's one of those palettes that you can get a really nice purple leaning neutral look, or you can get a really banging all purple look. I think it's a really good addition to like a collection of 10 palettes or something if you have like a few palettes already but you just want something a little bit different. And I also feel like this is a really great palette, as are all of Anastasia's palettes, for getting a full look with one palette. Not all of my palettes in here I can say that about, but this one and the Soft Glam as well, I definitely feel like I can just grab this palette, get one complete look. I have everything that I need, and it's not always going to be the same look. It can be a different look every single time. So that's something that I really love about this palette as well. The last one, are you ready? Can you guess? I don't think you can. It's one that I like. I think I had it in my monthly favorites. I filmed a review on this when it first came out. I actually filmed 3 looks with it. Are you guessing yet? I'm sure you're not. This is one that I actually bought this palette because the original palette I wanted to buy that day, the Gemini by Melt Cosmetics, sold out too fast, and I wanted to buy something that day, so I bought this palette. Palette that nobody talks about anymore. I'm not even sure if it's still available. I think it is. This is an influencer brand. Can you guess what it is yet? It's the Lunar Beauty Life's a Drag palette. This is Manny MUA's brand. This is the original first product that his brand released. I will say right off the bat, I did not choose this palette for the color story like a lot of the other palettes I did. Like Nirvana has an amazing color story, the Julius Place palettes have an amazing color story. This one I chose for its colors, but not the color story, if that makes sense. So I'm not likely to sit down with this palette and create a look. There's no inspiration for me, just being honest. There's no inspiration for me to create a look with just this palette. However, this is the kind of thing that I will reach for all the time when I need complementary colors. So obviously we have all of our neutrals right here. The white and the black are very, very good. They blend really nicely. These two matte mid-tone shades, Sickening and Hunty, are really nice. We have cool toned, we have warmer neutral toned, and then if you mix these with the white, it'll be lighter. If you mix these together, it'll be nice. Like you do have a lot of neutral options. I really love the neutrals. You have a more red, deeper shade, and then a more brown, deeper shade. These two shimmer shades are the only shimmer shades in the palette, and they're very good. I wouldn't pick this palette for its shimmer shades because, again, the colors just aren't that interesting, but if you need a shimmer shade, they're nice and they actually do blend in with the other colors in here. I would say that this shade Beat blends in with like the blues and greens a little bit better, and then the shade Legendary will blend in with the reds and yellows a little bit better, if that makes sense. So I really can tell there's a ton of thought behind this palette. It's really good. I really like it. But this yellow shade is the #1 reason why I'm keeping this palette if I could only keep 10. This yellow shade is the most vibrant, bright, beautiful yellow. I remember when this came out, a few other palettes came out around that time, and I was comparing the yellows because yellow was a big thing. It was like matte yellow everywhere. And This one is the best. I love it. I mean, all the shades are really good. Don't get me wrong. Like, all the matte colors are really good. The yellow is the best. Did I surprise you with this one? Because I surprised myself. But so there we go. There we have it. Those are my top 10. Now, I was thinking it might be fun to do some sort of challenge with myself where I challenge myself to use these 10 palettes for a period of time and then come back and check in and see if I really would be happy with just these 10 palettes, or if I would want to add, you know, if I would want to exchange one or two of them out for some different palettes, because I do have some runners up that I keep looking at and thinking, wait, should I pick this one instead? Should this one be in there instead? I keep having those moments, but I had to just like sit down and force myself to pick, because otherwise I never would pick, you know? Like Mel Thompson said, I'm so glad that this is a fake challenge because it's a little stressful. Here's a quick shot of my runners up. Just a few. I mean, again, if you watch my channel, you're probably not that surprised. A little bit older one. This is one that, the Flamingo by Violet Voss, this is one that's like on the fence. It's fighting with a couple of those. We'll see. The Zodiac palette is another one by BH Cosmetics that I really love. See, there's Jaclyn Hill. She's in there. She made it in there. She made it in the runners up. She just didn't make it to the final 10. Modern Renaissance also was one I was considering. Too Faced Rainbow palette, Violet Voss Rainbow palette, ones that I really like, but I was able to find similar colors in the ones that I have. So let me know if you would like to see me test these palettes out over the next maybe a month or two, and then check back in and let you guys know if I really do think these would be the top 10, or if I change my mind because I've been playing with them and I think that I don't need one and maybe I need something else. Let me know if you'd be interested in that video. That's what I'm trying to say. Alright guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And check out my other videos. I do vlogs, I do beauty videos, I do it all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and week, and thanks for watching guys. I will talk to you again very soon. Bye!